All right, so I'm going to go ahead, for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So today we have a presentation by Tracy Bivens Davis, who is actually one of our colleagues. She's the Assistant Director of Training and Equity at CCALAC. So just a quick overview. Again, our agenda is pretty simple and straightforward. We will do a breakout. We will have time today to do a breakout reflection. I know last week was just the training. And so we'll do a little bit of report back. We'll do a short poll at the end in our closing. We will be doing a giveaway again today. So make sure that your name is, that you have your name correct on the screen, so that we can put your name in for that raffle. And we can, we could do that at the end of the session. All right, just a couple of reminders. 3 then me. After you speak, wait until at least 3 other folks have spoken. Stay muted unless you're speaking. One speaker at a time. Be present and devices down and videos on when requested. You can also use that raise hand button or type your questions in that chat as we're going through the presentation. And I will keep a lookout in the chat for any questions that come up for Tracy during the training. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here, and I'm going to introduce Tracy Bivens Davis, who's again the Assistant Director of Training and Equity at CCALAC, and she's going to be talking about team cohesion and how and training and the importance of training for staff across your organization. So, Tracy, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, or afternoon, everyone. I'm seeing it's 12 o'clock and it just really caught me by a moment like, oh, wait, it's lunchtime. It's time to eat. So definitely, hello. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and hearing me this morning. I'm excited to be a part of the crew for this next 45 minutes to an hour. My name again is Tracy Bivens Davis. I am the Assistant Director of Training and Equity here at CCALAC. And I'm going to talk a lot about my role and the work that I do here. I'm going to talk to you about your staff and satisfaction. And I'm going to talk I'm going to talk to you about team cohesion. I'm excited, as I said, to be here. I am participating in CPCA as well, but I stepped out for this important conversation because it's having a conference and being in conference season, as we currently are, is also an opportunity for us to think about how we train, how we provide professional development, how we relate to one another, and how we uplift each other, and how we provide access to one another. So, which is always a part of my role. So I'm going to, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Hold on one moment. Make sure, matter of fact, let me plug in really quickly to make sure that I don't run out of power. That might be the most important part, right? While we're here. Absolutely. So what can I say about the work that I do and how it fits with crew and with the work that you do within community health centers? During our time together, we're going to talk a lot about, here, I'm sharing the screen here. We're going to talk a lot about how we you do things, how we create a culture of learning, how we provide support and space for that cultural development within supervision. We're also going to talk a lot about how I see people coming in, so this is great. I'm loving this. Hold on one second. I want to make sure. Can you see my screen? I think my internet flipped and am I still live? Just checking.
Yes.
Still live, can't see your screen though.
Great, thank you. Just want to make sure I got an internet on my blip. So during our time together, I want to talk about reframing and normalize what the training experience is. Talk to you about some of my experiences in providing support to some of your health centers, to really talk about how training contributes to the satisfaction and sustainability of your staff, as well as talk about, as I said, that equitable access. And I think it's timely because we have our state conference here. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that it's important to define terms so you and your staff have clear intentions when you're thinking about leadership building and building skills and competencies. In the training center, my job is to identify gaps in knowledge and expertise. So when you send staff to me, I may introduce them to a set of skills or short-term skills that help them in that moment to exceed and push through all the expectations that you may have in their health centers and as a part of their journey to being better professionals. My division can be a strategic component in upskilling or reskilling individuals and teams. But the distinction between upskilling and reskilling is the result. The processes are similar. You may go to a training, you may get a degree, you may go to a cohort such as this one in which you're exposed to different skills at different times. And that though the process is all intended to expand knowledge, they differ in the nature of the skills learned and the goals of the learning. So I have that unique perspective of being able to hear from your employees all the time while they're in the training environment. And one of the things that I appreciate about that is that not only can I be more timely and relevant with the offerings, but that I have a direct impact in how people and how professionals deliver high quality and equitable healthcare. And some of these terms I may use interchangeably throughout our time together, but no, there may be some others that come along. So we're going to do some polling. I know that you all, it may be lunch, most of you or all of you, the majority of you are off screen. But if you have open mics, I'd love to hear your voices because I think it's important to think about some of the things that concepts that we're going to discuss as a part of our poll. So let's start with our first one. Andy, can you launch the polls or Crystal? Yeah. So that's the evaluation. Yep. What's being launched is the evaluation. So hold on one moment before you answer. There it is. So what is the percentage of your employees what may be the percentage if you had to guess? Studies show that the percentage of employees who voluntarily left their companies because of lack of career development. What do you think that number might be? I see 20, 10, 35, 35. I see you. All right. Let me know. We're at 88%. Awesome. Awesome. At 88% received. Absolutely. 60%. There we go. So when we think about the percentage of employees who leave their organizations or companies because of lack of career opportunities, we're seeing that 20% is the correct answer. 20% of all employees who left their companies in 2022 left 100% because they were not offered these professional development opportunities. And it was possibly not a part of their professional development plans, their performance appraisals, frequent conversations with their supervisors. But know that 20% is pretty significant if you think about the cost to recruit, the cost to retrain, and the cost to invest in long-term employment strategies. Thank you for that. So our next question. According to the International Journal of Business and Management Research, what percentage of employees agree or strongly agree that training and development programs improve their job performance? I see everyone going. Okay, we're at 52%. All right, I see you. It's coming in at 84. Got you. All right, so let's end here. So let's share our results. According to you, about 80% of employees agree or strongly agree that training and development programs improve their performance, but the actual answer is 90%. Wow, the actual answer is 90%. Interestingly, a study by LinkedIn identified that 94% of employees would remain longer and stay if they were able to not only receive training, but those trainings were affirmed by their employers. So let's try our next question. What percentage of employees want training they actually want it? They want those trainings to improve their current performance. 80%, I see you. and it's growing, and it's growing. I see you. 73% have submitted. Awesome. Okay. So let's share those results. Your answers, according to your answers, 80% of your employees want training to improve their performance on their current jobs. But statistically, interestingly enough, statistically, that answer is 55%. That answers about 55%, right? Because people believe that they come with a series of competencies. They believe they come with a series of skills that they can transfer in. And some people are very comfortable in their learning and in their environments in which they work and really are resistant to learning. And some people have not been introduced to learning as an option and an opportunity in order to enhance their satisfaction. So let me ask you a question about you, because I'm going to assume that there may be some people in here who you may supervise, or even think about this for yourself. In our next question, we're going to look at how often do you, your team, or someone you supervise participate in training or professional development? I see monthly, twice a year, 2 times a year, quarterly. I see you, annually. Right now, it's not a priority. Thank you for that transparency. Awesome. Thank you. Right now, I see you. 80% have responded. All right. So this is an opportunity for us to look at you and the operations within your health centers. So pretty evenly, people say they may learn monthly or quarterly. You or someone in your team is participating pretty regularly, monthly or quarterly. We also have people who, are participating in annual. We all have annual requirements. All of our community health centers have annual requirements. In any employment situation, we have those. 2 times a year. Awesome. 31% of you said 2 times a year annual. But the reality is that those 20%, those 19% of people I'm seeing at the bottom, can you talk about the lack of priority that you've acknowledged? Though this is being recorded, I think it's an opportunity for us to learn together. It may be about time, it may be about resource. I want to hear more. Are you willing to share that? Okay.
Hi, I'll share. This is
Sure.
Bridget.
Thank you, Bridget.
Sure. It is largely about time, and which unfortunately deprioritizes a lot of training, although professional development, although it's very important. Unfortunately, it's not enough of it happens not just with the immediate staff in HR, for example, but also with other managers and management training. It's always on the board, and always there's always a plan for it, but unfortunately, it just sort of gets down lower on the list when you're trying to, struggling to hire, for example, keep people, in place without, trying to manage retention and just other priorities that really keep coming, in the fold. Not to say that training and development is not important, because it is. And we also know that that does, in fact, help with retention. At the same time, it's just very hard to get to. That's just how I see it, and I think that's how a lot of people at the organization I'm with sees it.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you sharing that, Bridget. I'm hearing that in a lot of health centers right now, that it's real, that the retention, that you recognize that training and development is an important part of that retention strategy, but it's just so difficult to fit it in with the changing priorities, the people, the turnover, even in your health centers, and all of those things that are absolutely a reality. Anyone else want to share anything about your health center, or maybe why it may not be a priority? One thing I'm also hearing is that some of your health centers are not necessarily allocating professional development dollars. as well within your budgets. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to think about how we, and I'm going to open the chat too. All right. It's an opportunity for us to think about as we plan our budgets in the next year. We know that training is going to happen and that we want to retain our staff. So how do we plan for that in advance? Like you said, Bridget, is always on the menu, so to speak, quote unquote. It's something that you want and something that you're interested in. But how do you make it a priority? Making it a priority often shows by budgeting. It shows in your budgeting, right? So budgets are actually a value statement. We have one of my mentors in the community, Holly Mitchell, says that if you want to know how committed I am to you, look at my budget. Right. Right. So if you follow the money and you follow the tracks, if professional development dollars are not there, then how do you plan for it to happen in the new year, and using it as not only a retention strategy, but a strategy that decreases the turnover within your respective health centers? And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to skip the last two questions, Andy, and I'm going to go to the next slide, if you don't mind, just so we can move forward, because I want to hear a little bit more in a minute. It's important for me as the training manager to talk about the importance of training, because one of the things that happens often is that employee training is used as discipline or in response. So someone in leadership observes something that they are concerned about, that they want to change, that they that they don't know what to do about. And so often they will say, okay, well, I'm just going to send you to this training, instead of having a real conversation about perspective, identifying gaps in knowledge, identifying what skills and assets people have, and assessing how training can be the long-term strategy to fill all of those things, to fill all those expertise, to fill in those spaces that often that just on the surface look like a difficult encounter or look like an incomplete encounter or whatever the judgment is. Because training is a learning experience. It's about a permanent change. So it's giving people individual small skill sets that lead to those long-term changes. It's involved with the improvement and upgraduation of skills that enhances in performance and engagement, and training and development is always a part of your engagement strategies. And if they're not, and if you're noticing routinely within your health spaces that they're not, then it may be one of the biggest contributing factors to your turnover and your inability to really retain staff. Now, I want to acknowledge that if employees are not provided with their ample training to manage their stress, both at home and at work, that impacts their productivity, that impacts their performance, and that impacts their relationship with you. So being able to train employees for error management, error avoidance is all a part of ensuring that they're engaged and that they stay, right? So with the right of training, of course, people become better at their jobs. They improve their role. They're happy to be there. They're more in content, but they can only do that with regular feedback. They can only do that with knowing that they have a partnership, that they're not walking alone, that there's someone to catch them if they fail and they're failing forward, which we'll talk about in a minute, and that they're given the right kind of correction and reinforcement. Employees undertaking training feel more confident in their abilities if those areas that they're struggling in are really the sources of where you provide inspiration and support. Succession planning. Remember, as you're saying and you're talking more and more about the turnover rates and how people are leaving, if you're really ingraining training as a priority and creating a culture of learning, people are being upskilled. They're building those skills to take those positions. So you may not have to look as far outside of your health center for those people to fill those roles. You may be able to train and prepare people to stay and be those conduits of new information, new ideas, new thoughts, right? And they can bring other people in because they themselves feel valued. Good news travels much slower than bad news. So you're going to hear more about people leaving for whatever reasons they have. But the good news, when people go to spaces, when they're engaged in new spaces, they're likely to refer you to other people that they know are looking for jobs, right? So you want to make sure that they feel valued. And part of helping them feel value is ensuring that they're upskilling, that they're learning more, that they're participating actively in that they're getting timely and relevant feedback that they can grow from. And ultimately, they're more likely to say that they will stay, they're more likely to share their experience, and they're more likely to want to be with you. Organizations or community health centers need to take note that a happy employee is a happy customer. So when you're talking about customer service with your staff, talk to your staff about being a customer, because their delight is your delight. When you're interviewing them for placement in their roles, they're interviewing you to assess if you are fitting their own personal missions and visions. Remember, we're mission focused and forward people who gathered to create an equitable space for people to thrive in and to become healthier in. And that is true for our teams as well. As a result of training, as you said, people are much more satisfied. They're much more willing to engage in behaviors that are helpful to your organization. They're much more attractive. You're much more attractive. But it's also argued that if satisfaction is low, people are more likely to participate in behaviors that harm the organization or their roles, even within said organization. Jeannie, I see your hand. How you have a question or a comment?
Hi, how are you? I'm
great.
sure I'm being redundant in
Sure.
my brain just kicked in. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Kicked in on the next level. So I want to I want to put a pin in it for a second.
Sure.
Tell me what your background is in relationship to the data that's being shared.
So my job, well, I've talked to you about the role that I occupy at CCALAC, but prior to this role, I actually worked in many of your health centers. I actually worked in many of your clinical direct teams. So I've worked in your navigations, your case management, all of your psychosocial roles. I've occupied those, your social science roles, and I've led teams within those spaces. And I'm talking to you about all of the things that I have done personally that I bring into the work that I do on a day-to-day basis, and that I encourage you to as well. And I'm showing you the science that backs up my statement. This, right, SHRM, which the Society for Human Resource Management, I actually participate with SHRM quite often because I've been trained, and not only as a professional executive coach to lead people through their professional growth and their personal growth, but also part of my job is asking those powerful questions that lead to professional change.
And do we find a discrepancy with, and I'm being as tactful as I can in asking the question because my brain's like really running fast right now.
Sure.
Are we seeing discrepancies when we're looking at the generational gaps or changes that have been happening, given that in our workforce right now, we have everybody from the Gen Zs into actually some baby boomers still working. So the complexities of navigating those different generational roles and from a lack of a better way to put it, their mindsets. Are we seeing that there's a crossover, or is this information trending in one direction or another?
What we're noticing is that across because we are, as you mentioned, the biggest intergenerational workforce, we're noticing that different generations are asking for different types of things. So for example, our younger generations, they'd never want to stop learning. They want cultures that are based on continuous learning, continuous upskilling, because they have these ideas about where their careers, where they can have the most impact, and they're willing to learn to get there, right? Some of our more mature professionals, I acknowledge I am a mature professional. I've been around a long time. Some of us have been in our roles, have had several roles, have held privileged positions. I have and am currently. And it is my responsibility to use the privilege that I have and the roles that I have occupied to help the teams, but to help those people who are in my area to know that we never stop learning until we leave. We never stop learning. And that an important part of our learning is making sure that the people that are coming behind us are learning as well. So it's important for us to mentor, but it's also important for us to show up. It's also important for us to provide space, because so many of us, as we get older, we sit down a little bit. We get a little more comfortable.
Fair enough.
Right.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Mhm.
My brain just started to, something oh gosh, I don't even know where I saw it. In the last 48 hours, I have been reading something about the intergenerational workforces. And so I was just curious how this information translates across
Yes.
that paradigm. Thank you.
Absolutely. No problem. Thank you for doing that. I definitely will answer any question you have. This, we are at as Jeannie points out, and I want to make sure hope I said your name correctly. We are in the most diverse space in our workforce we've ever had, and different employees respond to different things. But if all of them are in a culture of learning, they will all be satisfied. They will all be retained. And the things that they may want to learn or need to learn may be different. So for example, I was talking to our health IT team yesterday, and we have a high number of health IT professionals who don't necessarily have that background in computer design and all of those, and computer and information security and cybersecurity, but they're super users for these amazing platforms that we rely on, right? Even those super users have to at least grow their skills as their programs change in order to stay relevant, to be able to provide the support to you. So they're conduits of information, and we as older people, and me as an older person in the workforce, my job is to be a conduit of information. So if I stop learning and stop sharing, then I'm impacting your satisfaction. Absolutely. So absolutely. Another thing that's important for you to think about in terms of what we just talked about with SHRM is that people are very satisfied with the things that they're learning. When you're providing learnings, when you're providing trainings, when you're providing professional development, people really absolutely want it. They want it. They want you to give them the time for it. They want you to give them the space for it. SHRM's data shows that about 75% of workers who are receiving professional development are pretty satisfied with what they're learning. But what we're seeing in the intergenerational space is that, and this is being influenced by age, is that we have workers who want a combination of skills. We have people who want soft skills and hard skills, right? So we want this balance where we want behavior and interpersonal ability and effective communication just as much as we want the technical. Just as much as we want, right? So 9 out of 10 employers say it's important for them to have these hard skills, but they often don't train on the soft. What we see in the soft skills area is that soft skills are usually what's included in your performance appraisals. Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink of water quickly. Excuse me. Soft skills are usually what you talk about in your feedback. And they're usually the space that requires more critical conversations and difficult conversations. Right? I'm going to put myself on mute. Excuse me. All this to say that what I believe and what I've seen, which is what I'm sharing with you today, is that cohesive teams are dependent upon a group of individual behaviors, right? They're dependent on the individual behaviors and collective actions of a group of individuals that have both common understanding and clear visions. They understand what is expected of them. They're knowledgeable about their roles. They have clarity about how they're living out the mission of their organization. They know how they fit in their vision. They know how their program fits within that vision and mission. And they're unified in that information. Their individual contributions equals to the collective success. And the foundation of all cohesive teams starts at the bottom of the pyramid on your screen. So it starts in the space of trust. And before I really get deep into the trust, I want to acknowledge that all of your health centers have really experienced a shakeup. The impact of COVID, the quiet quitting, the high turnover rates have all stressed your systems. They've stressed your staff. They've stressed your teams, and they've even probably stressed some of the ideas you had about how you're going to grow. So I want to acknowledge that. But what I also want to acknowledge is that as we're growing people up and that we're upskilling people, as vacancies come available, we have people armed and ready to take on those roles. We have people who have not had interruptions in their learning, who can fully step into the space and take on the role, the accountability, and grow and have promotion and be much more engaged, satisfied, and stay longer, have longer tenure, and build their commitments for you. But it has to start with trust. And trust is embedded in the belief that the intentions of the organization and leadership are good. Right? I'm going to say, and non-judgmental of others. I'm going to say it loud. Good intentions, good actions in a non-judgmental space. I often hear in my trainings, people come to training and they go, well, I did this, this, and this, and yes, I could have done better, but my boss needs to be here because they do the same thing all the time, but I got in trouble for it. I hear that in the training center. I hear that in trainings, and people have asked me, well, why is my boss not here? They need better customer service too. What I want to say is that it is that having those comments, having those curiosities answered in a non-judgmental way builds trust. People understand, not if you just declare that something is true, but if you've provided long-term constant feedback, people will respond to it and they will understand how they contribute to it, and they'll take responsibility for setting in that foundation of trusting one another. So when they're building transparency and honesty, they're able to be more vulnerable, which means they're more likely to show up if they can have a safe space within your organization, right? Conflict is storming, norming, forming. It's normal. We expect it to be here. We expect it to be a part of every team. We know that it is inevitable, and we prepare for it. When there's trust, there's teams that can speak honestly. They can be vulnerable. They can go through a constructive debate of ideas, and they can hold on to those diverse perspectives that help all of us move past our biases and beliefs and into a space of commitment and action. Okay? When we're committed, we offer those opinions. We stay, we're tenacious, we're holding each other accountable. We're making ourselves, like I said, a mentor. A mentor doesn't have to be years long. I can mentor you for one day and be equally impactful if I stayed 6 months. Right? So if you think about those moments of contact and touch and how things come together, when you're committed to someone, you're trusting them, you've survived conflict with them, you build an accountability that equals productivity and results. Right? All of our health centers, all of your health centers rely on productivity, they rely on results, and that can only happen with commitment, trust, and accountability, and an ability and capacity to move through difficult times. So when you think about a cohesive team, there's and you think about healthcare delivery. Healthcare delivery always has a competitive advantage because people have choices. People can say, hey, my friend wasn't treated well over here, so we're just going to take my friend over here. That's true of any business. But what makes your health center different is that you have a vision and a mission, and that you're living, and that the people you're serving are the mission and the vision, and everything you do starts with them. Okay. So how do you do it? By creating a culture of lifelong learning. One way to change culture is to promote this lifelong learning or pursuing education beyond the traditional schooling or corporate training, to support the building and the development of professionals who never stop honing their skills and expanding their knowledge, both personally and professionally. People who might take up hobbies, they might take up things that interest them at work and personally. So the person who like me, who hasn't roller skated in 20 years, who has a pair of skates, and now it's time to get back out there, right? It's time for me to reskill and get back into my lifelong learning. But it really demonstrating that I can be a lifelong learner, that I can take up things, that I can learn things that serve me. I can eliminate things out of my learning that no longer serve me. Right. And I can increase my network, build my confidence, and to create some professional opportunities for myself along the way. To build a culture of learning, there's so many opportunities. And these are some of the opportunities that I hope you will consider when you're creating professional development plans, when you're thinking about your own professional plans, when you're thinking about how to support other people. There's so many opportunities and options of what you can do. Implementing a learning management system, giving people space and time in clinic, away from it all, to learn, to know that the employer, that you as an employer of choice, I might add, are giving people the time, room, and space to be them best selves, right? In a space that is made directly for them. You providing tuition assistance, providing percentages off, or making sure that higher education is accessible, purchasing books, creating professional development plans, showcasing learnings, using pieces of team meetings to have people share back what they learn, translating that learning across teams, being able to let other people see that they too can learn from one another. Identifying skill gaps. That is an essential part of thinking of who we want to be, who we are now, and where do we want to go. Fill those in. Look for opportunities. We may know that someone plans to retire in a year. Who is the person that exists now that if we just fill some gaps, help them be their best selves, would be an amazing example of why we're an employer of choice. Right? But it's crucial that you identify these pathways at every level to ensure that technical and soft skills are explicitly a part of the plan. Right? We also want you to avoid overload. And that is so hard to do right now because we have so many competing priorities. But if you're mentoring, taking care of you, and other people can see you take care of you, they can take care of themselves. If they see you learning and they have opportunities to learn, they themselves will learn. Provide those tangible rewards. Like I said, the first rule of therapy, as I said, is that the patient must want to change. Training only works when people enjoy it. So when I hear the comment that I mentioned earlier from someone who said, well, why is my boss not here? I know immediately that that person is resistant to learning, because their defenses are high, because somehow they feel penalized for having to go to a training that they didn't anticipate going to, because they just got the feedback. It wasn't a continuous process of feedback. It was something happened in that moment, and now I have to send you to that training to make you act differently. And that feels more like a penalty than if I came to you and I say, I noticed that some things are difficult for you. And let's talk about those things and how we can help you improve, be better, and offer you the support you need in the moment. Promoting that growth mindset, right? When you promote a growth mindset, you're helping people to believe that they can be better just by learning. and staying open to the possibility. You're providing new opportunities. Like I said, giving space for people to showcase their learning, not only in presentation, but in implementation. Use those new ideas, use those new skills, give that feedback, encourage constructive feedback, something people can learn from. I try in my supervision with people, I don't do negative and positive. I do, let's talk even better yet. We had an opportunity, it didn't work out, but even better yet, we can move on to something else, right? There's no plan of learning that doesn't, there's no plan for learning that should include shame, that should include making people feel bad for the way that they behave. There should be a space to let people fail forward. I mentioned that a little earlier. As an organization, some of our health centers can really benefit from reducing shame and perfectionism. Letting people fail forward, give them the opportunity and the leadership skills to non-judgmentally acknowledge that mistakes happen and that we can grow from them together, that we can be together. We often also I'm hearing people say, I was incentivized to be hired here, but I was not incentivized to stay. If you incentivize me to come and I don't see the incentive to stay, what is the likelihood I'll stay? Right? So fail forward. You can steal that. Fail forwarding allows you to reduce shame and perfectionism, creates awareness and non-judgments, creates safe environments that increase psychological safety, and also provides you as a leader an opportunity to learn more, to respond to more, and to ensure that those things that are most concerning to the people you support and lead are met in the best way you can. So I want to talk to you quickly about growth. When you're investing in people's growth, you don't know what you may receive in the end. You really don't. So encouraging lifelong learning on a team really looks at cross-functional projects. How can this newly acquired knowledge help things be better? It helps you to think about presence and emotional intelligence, right? What I want to say to you about EQ or emotional intelligence, there's this thing I've been working on in coaching with a lot of professionals lately around developing their emotional intelligence. EQ or emotional intelligence is 80% of your career success. So a recent study of CEOs who've been in their roles for 5 years or longer, who've shown success in their roles, 80% of them have high rates of emotional intelligence. The ability for them to not only navigate their own emotions, but yours as well. So they're practicing in empathy, they're practicing in self-regulation, they're practicing in opportunities to be seen, opportunities to uplift. They're participating in self-management, and they're encouraging you to do the same. And they're providing space for you to reach your highest potential while they're being mindful that they themselves are still growing. So they're practicing humility all the time. And I'm going to end here with a little word about those performance appraisals because I brought them up a little earlier. In the training center, as I said, I hear a lot about people feeling penalized and having to go to trainings, etc. What I want to say about continuous learning and feedback and humility and self-awareness is that we all stumble, we all fall, and we don't get it right every day. And if we can acknowledge that we're human beings having a human experience, and we can normalize that for ourselves, for the people that we mentor, the people that look up to us, the people that we're hoping to encourage, and even the people that we're managing up, we can have, with well thought out, intentional performance appraisals that includes professional development and training, that doesn't take away from your workflows, doesn't complicate your multiple, never changing priorities. I think we can accept that in a health center environment, there will always be complex priorities, right? But if we don't stop and acknowledge that we need to change behavior, acquire new skill sets, we're putting ourselves at a deficit, and we will stay in this space where retaining our staff is not only expensive for us, it's expensive for the people that we serve. So my question to you, as you're thinking about these interventions that you're implementing, that you're thinking as a part of CREW, these spaces that you're developing, and these tangible spaces, interventions that you're doing, I want you to think about how creating a culture of learning not only increases the retention within your health center, but how it can lead to your own interpersonal satisfaction as well. Okay. Now, with that being said, I want to just check in. Are there some questions I can answer for you, or some curiosities along the way? All right.
Hi,
So,
Tracy.
hi, how are you, Carla? I see you down there. Yes, hey.
I kind of wrote this in the chat, but I was like, I'm just gonna share it.
Sure.
Just unmute. Corinne, thank you for your presentation and all the presentations so far. Great. And really, this has been really great and a lot of information. And I think time and especially energy is scarce, and it needs to be used wisely. We can't have all this information if we don't have the energy. We won't create the time. We won't create the space to do anything that
The time and the energy. I hear you. You're a little muffled, so if I repeat after you, it's because I'm trying to follow along. So, yeah, I heard you say if we don't have the time and the energy to do this. Yes, keep going.
Yeah. So just the time and the energy is just really scarce. Prioritize, things that need to be done. And then it's like, what energy and time do you have left for these things that are just as important, and we know how important they are? You're really trying to utilize what you have to do like immediacy, patient care, implementations, and workflows, new things that are rolling out with a change in the plan, whatever it may be. I think that's what, and that leads to the scarce time, scarce energy. Once again, people leaving because they just don't feel supported. There's no
Wait, can you repeat the last sentence? You sounded a little muffled to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. That it's just hard to kind of, when you're using your energy and it's so scarce, it's just hard to, and all this is so important. And we know it leads to retention of these strategies. It's not really, I think we need to work out, and even management and chief and directors. Everyone is really burnt out. How do we have the energy to put into, and expect the staff to have the energy when it's working?
You're muffled a little bit, but I heard you say it's hard to have the energy and time, and hard for staff to have the energy, and I want to make sure that I heard that correctly. What I want to say is I hear you. I hear that. I hear that. I hear that. I want to reaffirm that it is hard. We are all working on limited capacity. We're all sometimes working to the best of our ability. We are working to the best of our ability what we have, honestly. We're all at our capacities. And then we get a new program, and then it feels overwhelming. And then we get a new grant, and then it feels overwhelming. And then we don't have the staff. And it's just this kind of this cycle, like a snowball, right? Where it starts out small and then it just continuously gets bigger, right? One of the things that I want to acknowledge is the fact but there's a chance that that will not change. So when do we get off, how do we change the trajectory for the place and space in which you operate? What is the change that you can make, that you have control over, where you can influence a change in the pattern? Right? Is it possible that you, as you're talking to HR, that you notice that there are specific vacancies that seem to come up more often than others? What is the thing that you can do to help that thing? Right? Where's the spaces in which you have control? I always think about the sphere of influence, right? The sphere of influence says that sometimes there are some things that I can't control, and I can't focus on those things. And I have to acknowledge that I have no control over them, but I can make change where I am right now. Right. And so, yes, today the priority is that I have someone who didn't show up, and I have a whole panel of patients that need to be rescheduled. And that might be the reality tomorrow too. Right. But if I stay invested and I have the trust and I have that team, I know I'm not alone. I know I'm not walking that journey alone. I know that someone else is helping me to walk that journey, and I'm able to honor that commitments because I'm not doing it alone. Right? The other piece is also about recognizing that manpower is scarce for some of us at times. And when we use that sphere of influence, we can branch out a bit. How do we seek the supports that we need in order to be better leaders? Also plays a part in that. Remember, be the change you wish to see as well. Absolutely. Floribel, I see you. How are you? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, JC. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the presentation. I have a couple of, one question specific that you mentioned, and it really resonated with me as far as like budgeting that investment in professional development, but also in your experience, with CCALAC, how have you seen nonprofit organizations try to prioritize this, like, in a way that, again, maybe the private industry has a more robust, training components versus, I know some of the slides that you shared is like hire managers that can train, and sometimes we think that's an easy task, and it's a very, very difficult task. And that's probably one of the reasons why we joined Crew, because we wanted to learn more about it. But I've been part of practices in my career where they've had like a training department, small, maybe three people. However, like you said, the investment in getting them in the door is one thing, but keeping them sharp throughout, it seems that we have a harder time convincing, probably leadership that it's needed, that investment is needed over time, like those refreshers. So, those poll questions already kind of had my gears going. And I'm just curious to know, like, what have you seen out there? Like how under what budget lines would you put that under? Just specifically HR, or across all departments like clinic and back office and things like that we have to budget for our own department and not just rely HR to do it?
You hit the nail on the head right there. Across the entire organization, I've seen, I can tell you what one, here at CCALAC, one of our employee benefits is a professional development fund. Each employee has a specific amount of dollars assigned to them annually in order to support their professional development. That money can be used for tuition discounts, attendance at conferences and trainings. It can be used for purchasing books and materials. It can be used for subscriptions in professional organizations. It can be used flexibly for whatever that individual employee needs, and it is a benefit, right? We also have a supplemental pool. A supplemental pool allows you to apply for monies above and beyond that dollar amount for the same purposes. And so if you have years, which we do, where people may not access those funds, then other employees can apply for those, right? So that has worked awesomely. I know we've done things like giving people a year, paid for a year of Coursera, which is like 3,700 diversity learning classes online from major universities. $256 a year. We paid for someone to have access to that for a year, right? Being able to pay for their all of their continuing education credits that for their dollar, right? For their degrees. So if you're incentivizing people to come in, we should be incentivizing them to stay, right? Just the same way that the swag and the water bottles and all that stuff gives you pride, right? It
Yeah,
has to go
absolutely.
beyond that. It has to go deeper into that. And remember, one of the things that I said earlier, a budget is a value statement. And when you look at a budget and you don't see yourself represented in that value, you wonder where the value is, and that value is in your team and in your relationship. And if those teams and relationships are not building your capacity to upskill and grow and learn more, you may not be in the environment for you, and you may not become the employer of choice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? I want to thank you. Thank you for giving me a break from CPCA to come see some of my favorite people. I appreciate always being able to see our members, to see all of you, to know that I know how hard you work, know that I know how committed you are, and know that I know that you try to make $2 out of 15 cents always. Okay. Thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up every day. And please, please, please take time to take care of you so you can take care of someone else. You have a great, great rest of your day. Andy, it's on you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy. Really helpful information. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our breakout session. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see the questions that we're going to discuss. And feel free to take a screenshot. For whatever reason, I'm having trouble pasting anything into the chat. So make sure you either take a screenshot of this, or you can also take a photo of it as you go into your breakout sessions. So the 3 questions for today are: what professional development opportunities does your health center have for staff? The second one is: how can your health center create promotion pathways for staff seeking professional growth? The third one is: does your health center have the capacity to provide professional growth opportunities for staff? If yes, is your process working, or does it need improvement? If no, what resources does your health center need? So we're going to go ahead and hop into those breakouts. We're going to probably do about 12 minutes or so, 10 to 12 minutes. And we'll come back to share out some of those. So I'm going to have, let me see if I can open them up. Here we go. 12 minutes. All right, perfect. All right, I'm going to open all rooms and you can go ahead and join. All right, so it looks like everybody should be coming back now. All right, so tell me a little bit about some of your discussions in your breakout sessions. Would anybody like to share out? All right, I'm gonna randomly pick someone. Let's go with Rosa. Can you tell me a little bit about what was discussed in your group?
Hi, good afternoon. A lot of great things were discussed in my group regarding the initiatives for being able to focus on employee development and growth. Part of the things I discussed was the fact that we're actually using this crew session as a part to strengthen our employee development. So that's exciting for us because we're able to utilize the tools we're learning here and, connecting with the coaches to be able to have a template or a, roadmap for any future development opportunities that we want to provide to our employees. Some of my group discussed coaching, so having a coach for employees throughout their employment and throughout their development as well. And I thought that was a great idea too, to have that one-on-one time with somebody who is more senior or perhaps has more experience and you can learn from them. I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, and I think there was that also came up in another training a few weeks back with like assigning even like a kind of like a buddy system, right? As folks are coming in that are new, maybe getting assigned to someone that's been around for a while, is able to kind of coach them through the onboarding process. I think this was during Michelle's presentation a few weeks back. So that's a really great idea. Thank you, Rosa. Anyone else? Let's see, Leticia, were you part of a different group?
Hi. Yes, I was part of a different group. I was actually with human resource.
Okay.
I don't remember the other name. But we basically discussed, we started this program within our organization, and each administrator basically, chooses 2 employees that are showing us as administrators that they're putting their 100%. So we're giving them the opportunity to go and enroll on the programs, so that way they could go ahead and they could get further training. And it's kind of like a lead, they train them in this program for quite a few months. And then they go down to our Commerce location to have meetings and in-person one-on-one trainings.
Can you tell me a little bit about what this program is?
Give me 1 minute, I'm sorry.
Sure, no worries.
I'm so sorry. Can I transfer it to Melody? I'm having a cough attack.
Sure, no worries. Melody, would you like to add a little bit to that, or what kind of program it is that folks get enrolled in? I don't know if Melody.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Yeah, so we had a leadership academy and management academy, and we also included a retention program for our medical assistants as well. So we are providing growth within the company for our employees, but basically what Leticia touched on, that's what we were implementing.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Anyone else that would like to share out some of their discussion? Anything that's working, things that are not working at your health center? Okay. All right, so again, I'll invite you to continue these conversations with your teams. And then just a couple of reminders. So we have one session left, which is taking place next week. It is a 2-hour session because we do have a training, and then also we want to make sure that we go over kind of the next steps after you complete the training series, because there are a couple of things that will happen after we're done. So the first thing is we will have a share out session that was originally scheduled in December. We moved it to January. We just recognize it's around the holidays, and also CCALAC has their we have our retreat, our work retreat that day. And so we changed it to January just to kind of skip over some of the holidays and things. And the share out will basically be an opportunity for you all to share a little bit about some of the work that you're doing in terms of addressing those interventions that you chose as part of the crew series. And so I will go more in detail next week what that presentation will look like and that share out will look like in January. And then in March of next year, we will do a post-assessment, which will be similar to what you did in your pre-assessment. You will meet with with your expert effect coach and go over some of the changes and things that you've implemented and how those things are working at your health center. So again, I'll go more in depth next week with that. So just wanted to remind you. The other thing is, please make sure you schedule those coaching sessions if you need extra ones. We can definitely work with that. We do have the capacity to be able to offer extra coaching sessions aside of the 2 that you have. So please email me and let me know if that's something that your team is interested in doing. And then just a couple of last things. So I'm going to ask Crystal to launch the poll just to give us feedback on today's training session and what you thought of the topic today. And then I'm going to end with our weekly raffle, just as a thank you for the folks that are continuing to participate in the weekly trainings. And I believe I have everybody's name on here. Just take a quick look. If you don't see your name, let me know and I can quickly add it. I know some folks had to leave. And again, folks must be present in order to win. So let's see who wins a $25 gift card today. All right. Ooh, it was close. Jeannie, are you still here?
Oh, yes, I just happened to be here. How fun for me.
Awesome. All right, Jeannie, congratulations.
Thank you.
Please put your email in the chat just to confirm that I have the correct email, and then I will send that to you before the end of the day today. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for your participation, your feedback. And we will see each other next week again with our last training session. So if you have any questions, if you're having issues logging into the chatter to access all of the training material, please let me know. A few folks have already reached out to me. It's oftentimes just resetting your password and we can get you logged in so you can have all of the information. Take care. Have a good rest of your week and have a great weekend. Bye.